Well, let's go out to our expert, the one and only
Big
Zach is here, brought to you by
Big Zach.
Bet365. Here's our in Buffalo. Zach, what's up, man?
Fellas, it's good to talk to you, but unfortunate in these circumstances. A disappointing end to a good season. That's what Sean Payton said at the podium to start after this 31-7 beatdown in Buffalo. And guys, I just want to piggyback off a couple things you said. Jarrell, right when I joined, you were talking about how the Broncos weren't able to get any pass rush, and it's because they just were never in a position where they could truly pin their ears back and rush the passer. When you're running for 6 yards per carry and you're looking at 2nd and 4 and then 3rd and 1, and then Josh Allen is just able to do a little quarterback sneak for a first down nearly every damn drive. When can the pass rush be alive on 1st and 10? Well, they're going to run the ball on 1st and 10, and that's exactly what they did. And one of the things that Sean Payton said after the game was I surprised that they ran the ball? No, we expected it. We knew that's what they were going to do in their house with James Cook, with Josh Allen. We knew that was going to happen. He was just really surprised, and really he pointed the finger at the execution. And Zach Allen, after the game, pointed the finger at the Broncos defense's execution by saying, we just didn't tackle. And you could see how disappointed he was, because that's really been a huge area for the Broncos of strength is Nick Bonito, Zach Allen, John Franklin Myers, DJ Jones, Malcolm Roach. Those guys are supposed to be able to stop the run, and they have for the most part, but giving up 200 yards. If you would have told me the Bills run the ball for 200 yards this game, I would have said the Broncos have a 1% chance of winning this game, and that's what happened today. And then, Todd, you pointed to something as well, just about the inability to stop the run, and that's exactly what Zach Allen said. Pretty much Zach Allen and Sean Payton, without being direct about it, put it on the players for their lack of execution.
Zach, I got to ask you, man, it felt like there was just a little bit of back and forth between Vance Joseph and Sean Payton kind of in the third quarter. I don't know what they were talking about, but did you have any insight from the press conference about their conversation?
Well, Todd, it's not the first time we've seen Sean go advance midway through a game. And, I think it was just natural game frustrations, and especially just the way that game was going. And I think the message from Sean to Vance was, get me the damn ball, because my offense can't do anything if they don't have the ball. And then when they did get the ball, they didn't do much with it. But the time of possession, I mean, we talked about the 200 rushing yards. I give the Broncos a 1% chance of winning that game. That just led to the time of possession. And the Broncos did not have the ball. Sean Payton kind of used that as a reason why the offense couldn't do anything. Obviously, Sean's always going to back his offense, and he did with that. That's why he said the offense wasn't able to get into rhythm, is just they simply never had the ball. Close to near the end of the game, it was 37 minutes to 17 minutes time of possession. That is a losing formula for every team in the NFL, especially one with a rookie quarterback, especially one where no one on the team pretty much has been to the playoffs, especially when you're on the road. That's a losing formula. And so, honestly, it's just everything failed in this game. The coaching failed, offense failed, they couldn't run the ball, and then Sean was calling running plays, I think, way too deep into the third quarter. We get you need to run the ball more. You need to run the ball more throughout the entire game, not just when you're down 21 points. That's when you throw the ball, actually. The defense couldn't stop the run, and then really Josh Allen just kind of took off in terms of throwing the ball. He ended up with almost 300 passing yards, 138 passer rating. So it was not just the ground game that was getting torched. The entire defense got torched. And then special teams as well. Will Lutz make the field goal at the end of the half. You have one job there. I think now, at the end of the day, we can't really point to Will Lutz and say, man, the game was on him. I think he might have been sort of relieved how the second half went because the game wasn't on him, but you got to make that. They had some big returns as well. Penalties were not in the Broncos' favor. So, I mean, this is just a loss all the way around for the Broncos. And when you're a 9-point underdog, you're going to lose that game when you look like that.
Yeah, I mean, the fake punt, too. You have the fake punt that works, and you don't convert that into points.
Yeah.
And, I mean, you pinned them at the 1 yard line, and that was the one time they didn't score all day, but still, it's just brutal. I'm curious what you thought of how Bo played.
I thought Bo was the best part of the game. Without going through all 53 players, I thought Bo was a C or a B in this game, where pretty much every other aspect was a D or an F. Bo wasn't going to put his team on his back and win this game, and honestly, Sean wasn't really allowing him to, and that's what surprised me. Again, I was surprised when the Broncos were running the ball down after down when there's 2 minutes left in the third quarter and they're down 14 points and they haven't done anything on offense since the first drive. Guys, they had 70 yards of offense on their first drive. Then late in the fourth quarter, they only had 160 yards since then. It was just incompetent offense, incompetent defense. But I honestly thought when Bo had opportunities, he did well. There was a point in the game where I think he only had like 4 incompletions late in the third quarter, and 3 of them were drops. Like his receivers did not help him at all.
I was just about to ask you that. What was his composure like on the sideline after that many drops? Because normally, we get to see the sideline view. They peeing in on the quarterback. They really didn't show him that much on the sideline to see his reaction. So I'm taking that as he must have been holding his composure pretty well over there. But I would have been upset if I was him, because that really was a whole change in this game. They dropped a lot of key passes down there that could have flipped the game a lot. What was his composure like?
I mean, it's from Cortland Sutton down to Troy Franklin. It was everyone that wasn't able to make plays when Bo was able to get them the ball. And his composure, he kept his composure. Look, the only time he's lost his composure was in that Raiders game when he went off on Sean Payton. And I think Bo has a very good understanding of where his place is with this team now. He is a captain, but it doesn't mean he can just go and scream at everyone. What I'm very interested to see is if this is an area where he takes that next step next year, because he was a captain this year. He's got the respect. Now that he doesn't have that rookie tag on him, Jarrell, does he feel comfortable going up to a guy like Cortland Sutton and saying, get your stuff together during the game? Now, Cortland still had a good day statistically, 75 yards. It's certainly not all on Cortland, not even close to all on Cortland. But does he have that ability to go up to veteran guys and be that type of leader? Look, we've seen it. You kind of have to have a little a-hole in order to be a great quarterback. We see it from Tom Brady. We see it from Peyton Manning on the sidelines throughout his career. I'm curious to see if that's a step that Bo takes this season. But Jarrell, instead, the cameras, instead of being on Bo on the sideline, they were on Josh Allen, getting a little love from the refs, saying, it's okay, Josh, you don't have to worry about it. We'll make up for it next time.
Right? That's exactly what was going down, man. That was crazy. We was talking about that earlier, how we ain't never seen that a day of my life playing a game of football where the referee comes to the sideline, like literally one-on-one conversation with you. Normally it'd probably be at the sideline, but talk about coming to your bench while you sit down putting your coat on and then give you a pat on your helmet and walk away. That's kind of crazy. But this type of NFL we in nowadays, where the quarterback get protected at all costs. And whatever way we can make it happen, we're going to make it happen. Who is that we seen? Patrick Mahomes earlier in the year, right? When the ref come, he's like, hey, ref, you gotta let me know when he close. But we know it's happening. So there's no shocker. It just sucks that, it's now starting to be very blatant now, So hopefully we get that
literally.
fixed.
I mean, they couldn't hold that one back, Jarrell. And I'm glad that you guys haven't seen that, because I've been covering this league for 9 years, but then I've also been a fan for my entire life. I've never seen it, but then talking to veteran reporters that have been covering the sport for 30, 40 years, they said they had never seen it, where the guy is all the way on the bench. The refs need to probably answer for that one, but we can't blame this game on the refs. And in fact, that play, the Broncos really benefited from. The defensive player of the year, Pat Surtain, maybe had his second worst play of the year and didn't get called for it. So Broncos actually lucked out from the refs there. It was just a very bizarre look after the fact.
Yeah. No, and then all the calls went the other way. Like right after that, it was just over and over.
It did.
But even beyond the calls, it was just like bad breaks. Like there was the one Brandon Jones with the hit on the defenseless receiver, which he hit him hard. It looked like he hit him the way he's supposed to, though. There was the PJ Locke's fingertips were inches away from the ball. There was the touchdown, fourth down. I'm curious what you thought, Zach, or whether somebody talked about this. As much as they did lose that game by 24 points or whatever, it felt like it was a game that came down to inches over and over and over again. The field goal goes doink off the post. They just missed every single one of those on top of probably just not having as much talent.
Yeah, but that is the NFL. Most 90% of games are going to come down to a couple of plays, and it's just the better team comes up with more of those. And the Broncos were clearly not the better team today because they didn't come up with any of those. And I totally understand what you're saying, Henry, but that wasn't really the feeling after the game. In fact, the feeling after the game in the locker room, talking to guys, man, this was a good season. And I know that's what a lot of people from the outside are saying is now, like, look, disappointing end to a great season. That's what I'm saying, too, because that's the damn truth. But not inside that locker room. They are pissed. They are very unhappy how this game went from offense to defense to coaching. And Zach Allen was about as down as I've ever seen him this year after this game. So the Broncos are taking this loss tough, and their message moving forward. And I thought this was very interesting from Sean Payton. He said, we need to figure out how to play these games at home, meaning playoff games. Well, Sean, the way you play playoff games at home is you win the division. That means you knock off the Kansas City Chiefs. And not just when they're playing backups in Week 18. You got to do it once or twice during the season and then win the division. You can't lose both games to the Chargers. You have to win your division to do that. So that's kind of the next step for this team, and I expect that to be the messaging this entire offseason from the Broncos is we got to go win the division.
Yeah, I see what you're saying, Zach. I mean, I feel like that's better said than done. I mean, especially when you look at this division, when you got the Chiefs that went to the playoffs, you got the Chargers that went to the playoffs, we went to the playoffs. I feel like every year it's going to be a showdown when it comes to this division because, I mean, I feel like each team is going to get better as the years go on, right? But real quick, from my knowledge, every year the team is different. You know what I mean? Guys leave, guys come, and when you look at this team, right, you would hope a lot of guys stay, right? I guess just from my knowledge, what guys are going to be leaving that played a real big impact on this team this year that we might have to fill their void next year? Is there any guys that come off your mind real quick that you could think of?
I'll be hung up on you.
Well, goodbye.
Guess he didn't want to answer that question.
No,
he did not like that question.
That's a tough one. No, just think about it because, like, even when we went to the Super Bowl, what year was that versus the
13?
13 versus the Seahawks. I mean, that year, the next year, the team was just totally different.
For sure.
From all the offensive side, from the defensive side. So, I just would like to know. I mean, just offhand, if you could think of guys that are going to be gone next year that we're going to have to fill their void.
Yeah, Jarrell, I'm so bummed that you cut off. It sounds like you were asking a great question, but I think I know what you're asking.
No, you good. That was no.
Yes, I'm sorry. That is no, Sean. I was looking right at you.
We all look
Sean,
alike.
but it was a great question. I'm gonna throw Henry in there too. You guys all look alike.
Oh,
I don't know what you're talking about, Todd.
Compliment to me.
And it's just a couple of guys talking ball, guys. And so Sean. See, the good news is the Broncos are going to have a better cap situation next year. They still have $35 million in dead money for Russ next year, but it's better than the $53 million they had this year. So they're going to have more cap space, and the guys that are free agents this year, with no disrespect, aren't guys that have a big impact on the team. So the Broncos, it's not like they're in fear of losing some big-time guys that they have to retain, and that's going to cut into their salary cap space. They are going to be able to go out on the open market and pick up some guys. But the key is, can they have as good of an offseason this coming year with more money as they did this past year with less money? Last year, they went out and they did the best bargain shopping that any team can do, from Brandon Jones to Malcolm Roach. They picked up a lot of key guys, and then they nailed the draft. Can they do that again this year? This offseason is going to be about what George Payton and Sean Payton can do together, because they have an opportunity to continue to take another big step this year. The Broncos way outperformed expectations this year. Now teams are going to be looking at them and not sleeping on them. How can they combat that? And they can add some big pieces now, but it's about hitting those pieces and not swinging and missing like other Broncos teams have done for this past decade.
I feel you, Zach. Well, thank you, man. Thank you for joining us. We'll see you tomorrow. I know we had a great game plan for this week and more Super Bowl guests that the Broncos had won, but I guess we'll have to save that to next year when the Broncos are in the playoffs again and they do win in the first round. We'll make sure we have.
What are you talking about, Todd? We have you every day. That's a Super Bowl champ.
That's so true.
There we go.
That's true.
I like that. I like the way you put that. But appreciate you, man. We'll see you here tomorrow at 11 a.m.
See you, fellas.
Appreciate you, Zach.